We don't hate nobody because of their color. We hate oppression.
The stories in the news today remind me of the sentiments of almost 50 years ago, when many young black people felt that policing for them was unfair.
During that time period, being black in America meant that you didn't walk down the street with the same sense.
There's a thirst for this kind of organization, which is young, black, revolutionary, militant.
It makes me feel this is important. Partly, I feel like things need to be said and these things need to be highlighted and brought out. And I feel like sometimes these conflicts need to happen.
It's been incredibly hard, man.
Obviously, we are nowhere near this today. In fact, we may be at a transformative moment. People of all ages and races are recognizing the problems with policing in black communities and are protesting.
Can't take it no more! Can't take it no more! Can't take it no more!
This is the police department.
It's on video.
Get out of What is he having?
Get out! Get out!
Get out! Holy shit! He's serious! Holy shit!
Calm down, okay?
Now, there's a chance for real change. But police departments and political leaders must not overreact as they did 50 years ago. They need to listen.
When I say no, you say violence. No.
Violence!
No.
Violence!
When I say no, you say violence. No.
Violence!
No.
Violence!
No justice.
No peace!
No justice.
No peace!
We just came from Bobby Hutton's funeral. And I'm not going to stand up here and make a speech because white people, you've been listening to white people for 400 years. They said they were going to do something. They haven't done a thing as far as I'm concerned in re-enfranchising the black man. It's up to the individual to do something, to force the government to give the black man a decent place to live, a decent place to bring his children up in. That could have been my son lying there. And I'm going to do as much as I can. I'm going to start right now to inform white people of what they don't know. The Reverend said, the white man can't cool it because he's never dug it. And I'm here to try to dig it. Because I myself as a white man have got a long way to go and a lot to learn. I haven't been in your place. I haven't suffered the way you've suffered. I'm just beginning to learn the nature of that experience. And somehow that has to be translated to the white community now. Time's running out for everybody. That's enough. That's enough talking.
And what makes them mad about that? They're constantly bothering the people. Anybody that's out there for the protection of the people happens to be in direct conflict with them. What makes them mad about it? What makes them mad about it is that they had black people and white poor people and red poor people and Puerto Rican poor people and Latin American Puerto Rican people of poor people of all descents. They had them caught up in movements based on racism when the Black Panther Party stood up and said that we don't care what anybody says. We don't think you fight fire with fire best, we think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We stood up and said we're not going to fight reactionary pigs and reactionary state's attorneys like this and reactionary state's attorneys like Hanrahan with any other reactions on our part. We're going to fight their reactions where all of us people are getting together and have an international proletarian revolution.
Right on.
And that's saying all power to the people. That's saying that no matter what color you are, there's only two classes. And that's saying there's a class over here and there's a class over there. And the reason that this class over here has never did anything to get this class off its back, because this is lower, this is upper. This is the oppressed, this is the oppressor. This is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fight amongst each other. And you've heard the testimony of pigs here. You got pigs of all colors, you know that. You got pigs that are white, you got pigs that are black, you even got pigs that are black and white.
You know, Einstein once said, doing the same old thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity.
DollarPreview.com brings you the new blood of Hollywood.
I'm just saying.
Now you have a choice. Oscar Michaud style, baby.
I was an engineer at Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics in San Leandro, California, just outside of Oakland, California. I worked in the engineering department there. This company had a contract with NASA. I was doing electromagnetic field black light non-destruct testing on all engine frames for the Gemini missile program, where they were popping the satellites up around the Earth back in those days. I was doing non-destruct testing on all 3 stages of exhaust housing for the Gemini missile program. I was in a high-tech job that I loved. My whole background and my ability and professions, I mean, really, I was in a tech world. My father was a master carpenter and a builder. My grandpa, Art Seal, had the contract in the early 1920s to build 700-800 houses and homes in a little town called Weirgate, Texas, almost near the Louisiana border. I think some oil shale methodology was coming about. For me, my high-tech world was great. I mean, I came out of the Air Force. I mean, I landed helified jobs. I worked for World Airways in Oakland, California. We overhauled every kind of aircraft framework you can think, and then World Airways would always get various contracts for the United States government. They brought in some 100 F-105s and all that kind of stuff. Me and my brother, we were aircraft mechanics, jet mechanics, structural repair, high-performance aircraft, you name it, et cetera. So I was lucky in one context. Not only did I have these skills and professions and stuff, I was a carpenter also, and I was an architect for my father. At age 15 years of age, I was doing lot plots for my father for license and inspection downtown for adding dens and rooms to people's houses and stuff like this here. So I wound up being raised in Berkeley, California, San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area. In those days, we referred to ourselves as Negroes, Negro Americans. It wasn't all this, the positive connotation of being an African American in terms of correct social science references and all that. That didn't exist back in those early days when I was 14, 15, 16. And I identified heavily with Native Americans, particularly the particular Native American known as the Lakota, who you and others, if you look at your history, were constantly referred to in history and movies as the Sioux. I became interested at college. Now I did 9 credit hours a semester as an engineering design major at Merritt College. But one day, as I was coming out of the auditorium area at the far end there of the college, I noticed across the street there was a street corner rally going on. The Afro-American Association, some speaker over there walking up and down, 50, 60 people standing around listening to her, has come here today to tell it like it is. I walked over there with my big C2 carrying case for my engineering design equipment and stuff. And I saw a guy named William Brumfield. I hadn't seen him since I was 15 or 16. And I walked up to him, I said, William, you part of this group? He says, yeah. I said, well, what is this Afro-American Association? Some kind of communist stuff or something? Oh yeah, I was brainwashed. I was brainwashed, what, in the 50s? With that, there used to be a television program called I Was a Communist with the FBI, starring Richard Carlson. Oh my God, man, the FBI was catching these communists and So I walked up to William. So I said, you part of this group? I said, what is this Afro-American? Some kind of communist stuff or something? He said, Bobby, why you say that? I said, they used to call you a socialist. And I remembered that. 10 years earlier, they called him a socialist in the community. I didn't know what the hell a socialist was. But by this time, I said, they used to call you a socialist. I said, Afro, I ain't never heard no crap like that. And so he remembered that I ran with his brother and that we had identified with the Sioux, the so-called Sioux. And he said, who are the Sioux, Bobby? I said, their name is not the Sioux. Their real true name is the Lakota. You know that. Me and your brother Steve told you that, etc. He says, and that means, I said, what are you talking about? He says, they're not the Sioux. I said, the word Sioux is a French word. You remember we told you that. He says, yes, I do. He says, and I'm answering your question of why I'm saying I'm Afro-American. What do you mean? He says, the Sioux are not cutthroats, because the word Sioux means cutthroat. Right, Bobby? I says, right. So they're like the Lakota. So he says, and we're not niggers, and they're not Negroes, and we're not backwards, and we're not stupid, and we're not docile. We're a human being with an ancestry, just like Italian American or Jewish American or whoever American, Irish, etc. He says, so we're calling ourselves African American. We're defining ourselves for who we are. And right then and there, I says, I see what you're talking about. You're right, right on. Anyway, I told him, I said, man, you know what? I've been hearing you guys here for this moment. I don't know nothing about no black history. I said, but I don't know nothing about Africa either. He says, Bob, there's a bookstore there. Go and buy you this book called... That's what he did. He says, go and buy, you want to know something about Africa, go buy the book. It's by a guy named Jomo Kenyatta. The title of this book is Facing Mount Kenya by Jomo Kenyatta. I went and grabbed the book, boom, 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 went home, blah, 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 jumped in my old 1951 Mercury, and went to work. Got to my job, etc., boom, boom, put on my smock with nobody there. No engine frames was in, so I sat down at my desk and commenced to reading this book by Jomo Kenyatta. And I learned about a black man named Jomo Kenyatta who went to England and got him a couple of degrees and came to America and got a couple of degrees and went back and was significant and organized against people out from under the yoke of colonialism over his people in the country. Whoa, this blew my mind. Wow, Tarzan does not run Africa. I mean, I've been raised to believe that Tarzan ran Africa. I got A's in mathematics, and I was an A, but I thought Tarzan ran Africa. This is my reference point. And it blew my mind. I mean, it kicked me. And then I really took time to start looking around and seeing what this all was about. Next thing I know, I'm reading W.B. Du Bois's Black Reconstruction. Then I'm reading another book by Marvel J. Herskovits. Marvel J. Herskovits. He wrote Myth of the Negro Past, a profound, well-dissertated piece of work. I mean, this guy researched and walked through and got rid of all the mythical misrepresentations about what black people were, how they evolved, etc. Simultaneously, I'm at Merritt College taking anthropology courses, so I'm learning about mankind in the context of a scientific, a social science framework, and this is all gelling together. You know what I mean? Next thing I know, I'm reading Herbert Apthacker's documentation of 250 slave revolts he documented. 250 slave revolts during the period of slavery. To read this book, beginning in 1800, Gabriel Prosa, an African-American slave, etc., attempted to organize 5,000 black men black slaves to revolt. Later on, we learn about Nat Turner in 1832. In 1822, Denmark Vesey. This guy had won a raffle, won him some money, got him some land, etc., and was pretending to buy up slaves, but he was organizing 5,000 or 6,000 slaves for revolts. But what Dr. Herbert Apthacker put together in this work was about what? He put together to show that he's documenting 250 slave revolts, including these major ones. He says, but more importantly, he says, what I'm calling a slave revolt in this particular work I'm doing involved 10 or more slaves. 10 or more slaves. He says there was all other kind of revolt involving less than 10 slaves that was going on, resistance of one kind or another. And this is blowing my mind. And it leads up to and gets back to Black Reconstruction. I'm reading another piece of it, and I come to find out, wow, 168,000 black men was enlisted into the Northern Union Army following the Emancipation Proclamation. 168,000, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois documented in Black Reconstruction. 38,000 of those black slave men died, ending slavery. And that's fine. And then there was the Reconstruction period. The first 9 or 10 black congressmen was duly elected to office, but following 1865 out to 1870 and 71 before the black codes came along and Jim Crow evolved in the latter part of the 70s. I'm just saying, this history kicked me to understand and realize something. You know, that this present day 1960 struggle for civil human rights that was going on, and this young guys with the Afro-American Association sitting there talking on the corner, by my God, it just kicked me over. I researched my history. 3 or 4, 5 or 6 months later it was, Dr. Martin Luther King came to speak at the Oakland Auditorium in Oakland, California. There he was. I was one student, one person, here to hear him on that weekend. You know, 7,000 seats and every seat taken, and I had one of those seats. And Dr. King went on in his speech about how we have to stop this discrimination against people of color all across America, where they're denied jobs and they won't hire people in some of these places. And he was talking about economic civil rights in this context, and so on. And then he got on the bread companies. After he did this company and this kind of industry and this kind of, he says, and we're going to boycott these bread companies too. We're going to boycott Langendorf Bread Company and Kilpatrick's Bread Company. Those were 2 local bread companies in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we're going to boycott Wonder Bread Company. And we're going to boycott them so consistently and so profoundly, we want to make Wonder Bread wonder where the money went. Well, that man, when he said that, had a standing ovation, and I'm one of those people, 7,000 people applaud, boom. I was truly inspired. I was inspired that I had to do something. But it would be next year, after I protested to free Nelson Mandela in South Africa, at the South African Consulate's Extension Office in San Francisco, from the United Nations, what have you, et cetera, that kind of stuff. But when John F. Kennedy was killed, and I liked Kennedy, I was ready to vote for him. I was 21 by then, and I did vote for him. And of course, they killed Kennedy. And when they killed Kennedy, next thing I know, Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam behind that, and what have you, et cetera. And I'm saying I got to do something. I got to do something. So after 3.5 years, from the mid-1960s to the late 1963, I quit my engineering job at Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics. I wanted to work in the grassroots community, and I got a job right away out of some department connected with the University of California up there, doing canvassing in the community. And so it wound up that me and my crew, the crew of our canvassing crew, you know, it was 3 young whites and 3 young blacks, and we was all working together doing this door-to-door canvassing for various communities. It was all connected with the federal government's Title II program of war on poverty at the time, but which I would learn later. But anyway, us students and young people doing this canvassing in the community were always there with some analytical, intellectual, but also understanding that racism has got to be stopped in America. That's what we were talking about. And we, in effect, decided to apply to the War on Poverty Board and put together a program. And we did do it. We put together a tutorial program, a youth jobs program, right there in northwestern California, in that poor and low-income community of 40,000 people. It was a specific area. I mean, the city of Richmond is much larger than that. I'm just saying that's what we did, and that was the first thing I did in terms of trying to, what I call institutionalized racism, and it was an educational program where we got the 10th grader to tutor the first grader, and the 11th grader to tutor the second grader, and so on up to, even so, a couple of few who was in college and stuff. We had 100 youth in there, and we paid them minimum wage, 32 hours a week, 36 hours a week in the summer and 16 hours a week in the winter. And those little minimum wage checks, that little money economically went back into the households of that community. And we even trained indigenous people over an 18-month period to do our job descriptions for that community tutorial program. Completely 501c3 status, all this kind of stuff, how to get the funds, et cetera, the proposals, various groups and stuff to get matching funds and everything. We did that. Next thing I know, a year later, I'm working at the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center. I'm working for the Department of Human Resources, City Government of Oakland, California. I run the Youth Jobs Program, and I'm the Community Liaison for the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center, which is the North Oakland community that I lived in at the time. So that was that grassroots kind of thing, you know what I mean? You're doing something relevant, you know? That was me. Then I created the Black History Fact Group. In fact, they killed Malcolm X, and I tried to get Huey to see if Huey Newton wanted to help me start a new organization. He didn't believe we could do it. He said, look, man, I just got graduated from Merritt College, and I'm in Knight Law School, and I'm going to work on this thing, and black folks don't know enough about their black American history. I said, well, whatever, Huey. But I went on in the Merritt College and organized a whole crew there, a Black History Fact Group, and met at my house across the street from Merritt College. And we, young folks, with the research, et cetera, and I had my new present library card for University of California, which is 10 or 12 blocks up the road there. And I went in there, and they had 26 libraries, I found. It blew my mind to find out the University of California had 26 fucking libraries. I could find anything in the world, I found out. You know, printed, et cetera, engineering library, psychology library, a separate anthropology and sociology library, all cross-indexed, et cetera. It blew my mind. You know, reading Dr. Mervo J. Hershowitz's work, he made reference to a black African-American, Dr. Lorenzo Dow Turner, who'd done 12 years of field research in African countries from Senegal down to Angola. And this 12 years of field research for him, he did a linguistic work, and he had published that work in 1949. Here I am in the early 1960s finding this out. And I went and found this at the University of California, one of those libraries, and since I wasn't matriculated there, they says, you can't check this particular book out. You're not matriculated here at the University of California. I says, why? You should be right. He said, well, you have to buy a special library card. I said, oh, yeah. Well, how much it costs? $35. Yeah, $35 a month. I checked the work out. Man, I found out why we African Americans and some of the older people really know what I'm talking about when you listen to what I'm saying here. Why we dropped all the T-H-E-R-A-R rolling R sounds. Not today. Those who've got access to formal education don't necessarily do that. But back in my day, I did it. Instead of saying this a lot of times, not all the time, I would say this. Instead of saying that, the TH sound, that, I say that. The E-R-A-R rolling R sounds are also dropped in the African languages. Ah, he traced this. Dis, that, dem, yo, mo, and fo. Rather than this, that, them, your, more, and for. He dropped the T-H-E-R-A-R rolling R sounds. African Americans did it all the time. And it was because we were denied access to formal education through all those years. In other words, African-American people via slavery and after slavery and the black codes and stuff and being discriminated against, we came through what we call an oppressive acculturation process that evolved here in America, along with fighting in the wars, et cetera. That's what happened. But we here, we whole human beings. But I'm saying, wow, I'm discovering something. Why we say this, that, them, yo, mo, and fo. And it told me, made me remember when I was a kid, I remember this lady used to holler out the window in the upstairs apartment in the government projects where we lived. Willie Lee, get in this house, boy, shut that door, and clean this mess up off that floor. And you slow that down, Willie Lee, get in this house, shut that door. Well, I mean, maybe in a correct American English-speaking white family, I mean, Willie Lee, get in this house. Shut the door and clean up this mess up off the floor. I'm just saying, why did we drop the T-H-E-R-A-R rolling R sounds? This was a great discovery for me to research, understand that, and realize that, why we did that. I mean, it was something. Another time, I'm in an anthropology class, and I'm telling the instructor, look, you keep seeing this term Negroid. Every time you make reference to black folks, you talk about Negroid. I said, I don't even like that term. What is the matter, Mr. I said, well, I don't like it. I don't like negritude. I don't like nigga and nigra. You got some people, I say, it's all connected and concocted with all the derogatory references to us black folks. We need some correct social science reference to us black folks. I'm in an anthropology class arguing, and some of the young black students, Bobby Seale, every time I turn around, man, you have been interrupting this class, man, and I'm trying to get myself an education, boom, 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 boom. And anyway, Negro come from Spain, man. I mean, it's a Spanish word that just means black. And get rid of all that old political talk you talking about. That's all it means is black. I said, but brother, we ain't from Spain. We ain't from Spain. So my friend Huey Newton was in the back of the class, and Huey Newton stood up, and she says, who are you? Huey wasn't even in that class, but I had him and Virgil Morrell. Virgil Morrell is a very close friend of mine who helped me organize on the campus at Mary College. Virgil Morrell and Richard Aoki, my Japanese buddy and friend. In other words, they was in the class, whatever, etc. And Huey Newton. And Huey has a nervous tone and a need to be precise. May I make a suggestion, please? And the instructor, she says, who are you? He says, I'm Huey Newton. I'm here to help Bobby make the argument about the need for correct social science reference. Huey said, I would like to suggest Africanoid as opposed to Negroid. And when he said that, he sit down. I'm up in the front of the class. I stood up. I said, that's it. That's it. That's it. The instructor said, sit down, Mr. Seale, sit down. So I sit down, boom, boom, and she wrote the term out on the board, Africanoid. She underlined the syllables. She says, okay, Mr. Seale, you made a good argument here. You can accept this. Yes, I said, but wait a minute, you got to equalize. She said, Mr. Seale, I accept. Other sister over there, she says, Bobby Seale, yeah, you go again. She says she accepted. And I don't know why you want to, I ain't got nothing to do, she was telling, with no Africans. I say, sister, you just dropped every T-H-E-R sound. Listen, with I ain't got nothing. You didn't say nothing. To do with. W-I-T-H, you dropped that T-H sound. With no Africans. Not Africans with the R. Anyway, I told the instructor, I said, you got to equalize the terminology. She says, what do you mean, Mr. Seale? I says, notice something. All the people of Asian descent and American Indians who are connected to that Asian descent, you're calling them Mongoloid. And now we're calling the black people Africanoid. I said, well, every time you mention the white folks who's descended from Europe, you say Caucasian, Caucasian this, Caucasian that, Caucasian this. I says, notice something. Over here, all the people of color, we the Noids. And then you come up here hollering Caucasian. She said, what are you trying to say? I said, equalize the terminology. From now on, Mongoloid, Africanoid, and Caucasoid. So, I don't know. I always like to say that we research, try to find out, and get an understanding, and make sure our ideas, our beliefs, and our understanding as much as possible correspond correctly to reality. That's all it's about. That's part of your personalized human liberation, to have a better understanding of what's what. You know what I mean? And that's where I come from. We talk about, oh, this country is great, and boom, 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 and it's here, et cetera, yet it moved all the way into the 60s to hardcore levels of discrimination, racism, Ku Klux Klanism. I mean, you have to read that book, 100 Years of Lynching. Go back and find it, 100 Years of Lynching. I mean, from 1865, day one after the Civil War was over in this country, the Ku Klux Klan evolved right there in Tennessee, and in a year's time, they had killed 1,300 blacks indiscriminately. Women, children, they were just riding around. They didn't even have hoods on half the time. They just killed them because they're mad because the blacks fought so heartily to kick the Confederates' ass. That's what happened. And then the Ku Klux Klan spread it over to Arkansas, and they killed 3,000 blacks over there. And this is in Reconstruction period. And the federal government had to send troops in there to kick that Ku Klux Klan's ass and smash them. That's when the Ku Klux Klan, indiscriminate killing and murdering, that's what they were doing to us black folks. And then, of course, 10, 12 years later, Jim Crow laws come in and all this kind of crap. I'm just saying, you have to understand that. Black folks is at the forefront, naturally so, in their numerical form, you know, trying to change things. I mean, we had great guys like Frederick Douglass and many others who did whatever they did, even in the Jim Crow periods and stuff. W. Du Bois, you know, was writing in the late 1800s and in the early. This is important pieces of history that, to me, became part of my understanding and why I became what I call a political revolutionary. And you have to understand what I mean by revolution. A lot of people think revolution is just about some guns. No, revolution is about re-evolving more political, economic, and social justice empowerment back into the hands of the people. I mean, that's what it's about. It's more, Jamie and his program that he put up right here, he's economically, it's very, very important for this program he's got. You know, and here's people pushed into dreadful second-class citizenship, whatever, et cetera, but he hires them and put them in and gets them to make that changeover in their mind, et cetera, through that process. Now they got incomes and they can take care of their families and stuff. That's what the revolution is about. I was reciting this poem, and I like this poem because we had a thing against this. We're not going to let ourselves get drafted to fight in the war in Vietnam. And so I picked this poem up out of a magazine that was published out of New York called The Liberator. The poem was written by a young man named Ronald Stone. And it had no title to it. Its first line was, Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. But one night was up around University of California in the nightlife district down Telegraph Avenue. You leave Sadie's Gate and come to the entrance and come down 4 or 5 blocks. There's hordes of students and people walking up and down, black, white, blue, red, green, yellow, polka dot students everywhere. And Huey says, recite your poem, recite your poem. I had Huey up there with me that night. And I said, man, I'm not reciting that poem out here. And we had a rally at Merritt College a week earlier. And supposedly I brought the house down with this poem. Of course, I was master of ceremonies for the whole damn rally. You know, I put all these people in and anti-war groups, et cetera, and young black people with their artistic and sisters and brothers with the African dances and all that. We did a whole big thing. Me and Bertram Morrell organized that, not Huey. But Huey came at the tail end when I recited this poem, and he blew his mind that I had organized and got 700 people in there. You organized all these people? I said, yeah, Huey. I said, you know, you said that you didn't want to deal with this. No. I didn't realize you could organize this. Anyway, a week later, Huey wants me to recite this poem at night. Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. Recite John Clare. He was trying to tell Weasel and some other student friends hanging with my brother John Seal. Y'all have to hear Bobby, man. Y'all understand. So I said, okay, whatever. So I stood out by the curb, hordes of people walking by. I stood out by the parking meter. I says, Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. Well, I don't give a good eagle-eyed McPleagle triple whammy. And suddenly a tall, bushy-headed white guy at one of them outdoor tables, hold it, he's got a chair, because 20 people stopped when I said those further lines. And he walks over to the chair and he has a big marijuana cigarette in his hand. Pop. He sits the chair down. He says, hey, man, I'm sitting there and the people stop and I couldn't see you, man. So if you know, it's vibes, man. I mean, I got to see. I says, okay, man, get the goddamn smoke out of me. And I stood up on the chair. And as I stood up on the chair, I saw the Berkeley police car turning right there. We were near the corner, behind the crowd, turning in, slowly turning in. And I went on to recite this poem, this anti-war poem. Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. Well, I don't give a good eagle-eyed McPleagle triple whammy damn, for I, Phyllis Fawcett, will not serve. Uncle Sammy, don't chuck and jive me. I'm hip to popcorn jazz changes you blow. You know damn well what I mean. You schooled my naive heart to sing red, white, and blue, stars and striped songs, and to pledge eternal allegiance to all things blue, true, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, white chalk, white skin, with USA tattooed all over. When my soul trusted Uncle Sammy, loved Uncle Sammy. I died in dreams playing war for you, Uncle Sammy. You jam your emasculate manhood symbol, puff with gonorrhea of corrupt, unreality myths into my ungreased nigger ghetto black ass of my Jewish, Catholic, Hindu, Islamic Sioux. What? Sure, free public health penicillin cured me. But Uncle Sammy, if you want to stay a freak show strongman guard, fuck your motherfucking self. I will not serve. This poem would cause us to create the Black Panther Party. I get down and the crowd is going, more. You know, this is the 1960s, early part. Well, 66, really. And you could start a rally with the drop of a hat. And then people hollering more. I get off the chair. Some guy comes up, he has a yellow T-shirt on. I don't know this man as an undercover police officer. He's a yellow T-shirt and some jeans. He grabs my arm in the midst of this crowd. He says, "You're under arrest for using obscene language." Because I said, fuck your motherfucking self, I will not serve it in that poem, right? And I said, man, fuck you. I snatched my arm away. I said, we won in the free speech movement in the court. We can say the word fuck all we want. And that was true. The Supreme Court had won about the free speech movement that you can say that four-letter word, okay? And boom, fuck you, and boom. So the uniform cop is wading through the crowd, and he grabs the back of my jacket. I don't know it, but it happens. But when I spun around, I saw it was him. Simultaneously, yellow T-shirt, that undercover cop that I don't know as a cop at the time, tackles me, head in the stomach, knocks the wind out of me. We're rolling down and rolling out into the intersection, and 2 or 3 more of these undercovers, you know, long-haired undercovers is getting and they kicking my ass. They're beating me up. And Huey is hollering, "Leave him alone, he's done nothing. Leave him alone, he's done nothing." And Huey gets in a fight. They tell me, I didn't see the fight, but they told me what happened, with the uniform cop. Now, most people don't know it. Huey Newton cannot dance. But when he's boxing, he can do it. But when he covered dancing with a girl, well, Huey Newton couldn't even hit on a girl. I mean, me and David here introduced Huey to most girls he was interested in. He just didn't have the ability. I don't know. It was something he didn't have. But my point is, Huey fights the undercover. I'm there. Anyway, my brother John Seal, Weasel, two other young white left radicals, and one Asian guy, all came in there and started kicking these undercovers off of me because the crowd was all around. "Leave him alone, he's done nothing. Leave him alone, he's done nothing." Now, notice something. There's hordes of people all up and down the street, 2 or 3 blocks up. That chant, "Leave him alone, he's done nothing," went across the street. They're kicking my ass. And it went all the way up to the next block. "Leave him alone, he's done nothing." Talking about starting a rally at the drop of a hat. Anyway, they kicked these guys off of me. And I raise up. And so I pull this knife out of my pocket. You know, some dude wrote, "Bobby Seale pulled a stiletto switchblade out to cut this police officer." It was a scout knife. I'm a carpenter. If you go to me and see my carpentry toolbox, I have these little scout knives. You know, where you have a little 2.5-inch blade? Then you have a can opener, and you have an ice pick, a bottle opener, that kind of knife. That's what it was. Because they're a little handy tool for doing shit. For doing all kind of crap. But then that's what I pull out of my pocket. When yellow T-shirt came back at me, I said, "Get off me, motherfucker." And I switched and I cut him in the hand. And he got back. Anyway, to make a long story short, other police got in. Me and Huey and Weasel got arrested. We went to jail. We didn't pass go. We went straight to jail. And in effect, I got everybody bailed out. Called my wife and get down here and get some money and bailed me out, and I got Huey out the next day. Actually, Huey's parole officer let him come out because I had to explain to him that I was just reciting a speech. And we went before Judge Stats October the 10th. And Seize the Time, I wrote that in jail. 80% of all that Seize the Time book was done in jail as a political prisoner. We went before Judge Stats. And I told him I work for the Department of Human Resources. Huey Newton, I've hired him. He's a part-time assistant there at the Neighborhood Service Center, and we should not be going to jail. These police lied. They first said I was using obscene language, and that's why they was arresting me. Then when we got in a preliminary hearing, they jumped up and says, they told me I was blocking the sidewalk. They never said that. And I says, Your Honor, it's not fair. You know, and I says, so anyway, the judge gave us probation. I thought we was going to jail for 1 to 10 years for assaulting a police officer. We got downstairs, man. I says, Huey, meet me at the War and Poverty office tonight. What's the matter? I says, Huey, you and I, for the last month or two, have been talking about starting a third organization. I says, and we could have been in jail and prison. We can't organize out here in jail and in prison. So let's go down and meet me at the War and Poverty office, and that's what we did. And we're going to finish writing this 10-point platform and program for this new organization. We didn't have a name for this thing. And number one, we wanted power to determine our destiny in our own black community. Number two, we wanted full employment for our people. Number three, we wanted decent housing, fit for shelter of human beings. Number four, we wanted decent education to tell us about our true history. Number five, we wanted an end to the robbing and exploitation of our people. Number six, we want all black men and women to be exempt from having to fight in any military operations in the United States Army, since this country is not recognizing our constitutional rights, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Number seven, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. Number eight, we want all black men and women, when brought to trial, to have some juries from the black community who represents the average reasonable person in the black community, et cetera. Number eight, we want the penal legal institution, whatever. And then we summed it up, we wanted free preventative medical health care. We summed it up, land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. And it took a couple of days to write all this stuff and get it together, blah, 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 in the War and Poverty office at night when all the other employees are off work. This is when I did this stuff. And finally, we got Melvin Newton, Huey's older brother, 5 or 6 years old. Melvin Newton was doing graduate work then at the University of California. And we took it to him, and he looked at it, and boom, boom, boom. He says, boy, you guys can't write a pound. He was right. We were poor writers, but we knew what the hell we were talking about and wanted to do, but blah, blah, blah. So he helped correct that 10-point platform and program. And then we went back, and we were there at the War and Poverty office. Well, it was a legal aid section upstairs. Remember, Huey was in Knight Law School, but he'd gotten to know the legal aid guys upstairs, and they said, you can use this library up here for anything. And Huey found the California State Supreme Court ruling that allowed us to stand and observe police in that legal aid law library. Me, in another situation, I found the first 2 paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence, United States of America, and read it and reread it, underlined points. I says, I said, this would be good to go at the tail end of our 10-point platform and program. And we did put it there. And it says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for any one people to dissolve the political bondage which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station in which the laws of nature, nature's God, entitle them a decent respect to the opinions of humankind, this is our paraphrasing, humankind dictate that they should declare the causes which impel them to dissolve that political bondage. When a long train, wait a minute, when a long train, it went on to say in the latter part of the second paragraph, when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter or change that government and provide new guards for their future security and happiness. Now think about that. This is the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, the founding documentation. And we stuck that at the 10-point tail of the 10-point platform and program. This is where we're coming from. Even Ho Chi Minh, I read later on, said this is one of the greatest documents that is around. Ho Chi Minh in North Vietnam, getting rid of that political bondage. You see what I'm getting at? In terms of that Vietnam War and people over there kicking his ass and the French fucking over, man, we're going to get rid of this political bondage and provide new guards for our future security and happiness. Same here. Whether you're black, white, blue, red, green, yellow, or polka dot, it applies. I'm telling you. So that's where we were coming from. That's where we were coming from with the Black Panther Party. Now, all these other points were there. We decided, let's work on point number 7, where it says we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people in our community. How are we going to organize? Because this is a political party. This is not something about being macho. What I'm talking about and dreaming about and thinking about is organizing all the votes in our black community. We knew and had researched and understand that 40% of the population of the city government of Oakland was African American. Another 12% was Chicano Mexican American, plus Asian, et cetera, people of color. How come we can't unify these votes? Institutionalized racism, the crux of institutionalized racism, rests on its laws. Legislators make those laws. If they have racist mentality, they're going to make racist laws. So what we have to do is we need those political seats, those political power seats. Remember, this is the 1960s. Black power, power this, power this. My concept, okay, power this, power that. But in the final analysis, if you don't have some of those political power seats, those legislative seats that make the laws, that's a political power seat, you ain't going to change shit. You see what I mean? So you got to change the law and then enforce the new law. You see what I mean? That was the idea. So we decided to patrol the police as a means to capture the imagination of the people. That was the primary thing. We want to capture the imagination of the people. And that's what we did. So it took a couple of months. October 1966, October the 22nd, we finalized the founding date of the Black Panther Party because we named it the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense on October 22nd, 1936. In that period, we went down to my war and poverty office, 3 blocks from my house, and we ran off 1,000 copies, me and Huey. Stapled them together. Little Bobby Hutton came around and said, "What's going on?" He said, "We got a new organization." "What's the name of it?" "It's the Black Panther Party." "Well, Black Panther Party, that sounds cool to me." You know, blah, blah, blah. And there we were, the first 3 people of the Black Panther Party. But in about 2 weeks, we had 16, 17 people. One sister, Geraldine, I'll never forget her. So we'd have our meetings, people be cleaning weapons, etc. Then we have a big PE class, you know, and I have the 10-point platform and program we was dealing with. And then Huey would talk about all the organizing things and the legal rights to the guns, all the legal points to the guns. Most people didn't know this. In doing this, people thought this was just some macho shit. It wasn't no macho shit. You had to sit down and learn how to clean a weapon. Not only did you clean a weapon, when you cleaning it and you have that barrel by itself, you got all the parts laid out, and you're going to put that weapon back together again also. When you cleaning that barrel, it could not be pointing at anyone. So you subconscious would not do it. Why? Because Huey had pointed out the law. You cannot point a loaded weapon at a person under California law. What constituted a loaded weapon, a live round in the chamber constituted a loaded weapon. If you had inadvertently pointed a loaded weapon with a live round in the chamber, that's the definition of loaded, and you had no intention of shooting, the fact that you pointed at somebody under California law, it constituted assault with a deadly weapon. We knew these laws. You can't ride in a car with a live round in the chamber of a rifle or shotgun. That law did not apply to a handgun. So we knew every little law, fish and game code law, regular law. We knew it all before we went to the streets. Huey says, all right, when we do get out there and patrol, remember, only one person speaks. He says, now, you cannot interrupt a police officer carrying out his duty. If you go in there and start talking and saying something while he's doing something, you could actually be arrested for interfering with a police officer carrying out his duty. He says, but I've studied the law and we've found out, and my professors agree with me, that what we can do is stand there, and if the police says something or asks one question of us, then we can talk back and say what we have to say. Then we can do it, and it's not under California law interfering with a police officer carrying out his duty. So that's the way it was arranged. Everybody was there. So there we was that one night. What was it, January, the first or second week of January? Riding in my old 1954 Chevy, and Huey would get his father's car, the Chrysler. What we got? We got 8 in one car and 7 in another car. We got rifles, shotguns, and pistols. Half of us got pistols and rifles. As long as, under the law, as long as a weapon is not concealed at that time, it was not considered illegal. Now you have to remember, peaceful protesters are also getting brutalized, shot and killed and murdered all over the place. This is what's going on in the 1960s. This is high conflict protest movement, civil human rights and anti-war movement, all being attacked, murdered, etc., shot. This is what's going on then in the 1960s. It's high profile, it's all in the news, what have you, etc. But we go down in the red light district on a Friday night, I remember this, with all these guns. We get out of the car, we parked our cars illegally. You see, people, that dumb movie, Panther, only 10% of it has any truth in it. 90% of it is a bunch of cheap fiction. They got our cars all parked up on the curb, and that's not the way we operated. We were college students too. Not only were we grassroots in our community and knew our ground, we were college students. We were good researchers. We were avid readers. We knew our history backwards, forward, sideways, and catacorn. My point becomes, we went out there and got out of the car, walked down the street, and we walked almost 150 feet or so. And Slim Jenkins, this is a nightlife place, went to the nightclub, liquor store at the corner, which is also a convenience store, another place here. And as we walked down, it's 10 or 20 people down there, and we got guns, and we walked up. The police is out here in the street, had 3 lanes on that side, 3 lanes on this side of the road. But he was somewhat out in the streets. And he had stopped his car with his little red lights flashing. His arrestee had his hands at the back of the trunk standing there, and the police officer was on this side, the passenger side door, with the door open, sitting in, talking on the radio and writing. We walks up, the police has not even noticed us. Black folks is looking around. Some sister, she's dressed real nice, but she's just kind of drunk and tipsy, you know what I mean? And we had our little uniforms on, the blue shirts and the berets and the bush jackets and what have you, etc. Y'all look spiffy. What's going on here? She said, this sister. And so we stand off the curb, and I'm telling everybody, stand off the curb. The cop still hadn't looked up. He's still on the radio. So an old man came out. Now you got about 25 people who's gathered there on the sidewalk looking what the heck's going on. They standing out there looking at that cop. And so an old man come walking out there. What they standing out there for? And it's nighttime, you know. What they got, sticks in their hands? Old tall guy, he said, man, them ain't no sticks, them guns. And that caught the police's attention. And the old man said, well, I'm getting the hell out of here. And Huey turns around, no one leave, everyone stay where you are. We researched the law. We have a right to stand here and observe. And Huey is talking to the crowd, but he's pointing at the crowd to observe these policemen who've been brutalizing us in our country, in our community. So no one leave, you have the right to be silent, stand here and observe. And as Huey turned around, the cop is standing, you have no right to observe me. And U.S. says, no, California State Supreme Court ruling states that every citizen has a right to stand and observe a police officer carrying out his duty as long as they stand a reasonable distance away. A reasonable distance constituted is 8 to 10 feet. I'm standing approximately 20 feet from you, and we'll stand here and we'll observe you whether you like it or not. Huey wrapped it up. If anything, this is one of Huey's glory days. I got Huey to a point where I didn't like the lumpen proletariat activity he was involved in, but I got him to a point that Huey, this is the kind of stuff that's got to be done. And he was good. And the cop says, is that gun loaded? Huey said, if I know it's loaded, it's good enough. Well, I have a right. Huey said, step back, you have no right whatsoever. Huey recited somebody versus so-and-so in Supreme Court ruling, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, it's my private property. You cannot remove my private property from it without due process of law. Step back, you cannot touch my weapon. And the tall black dude over there, he said, man, what kind of Negroes is these? I mean, this was a period, you're talking about the middle of the 1960s. Is that gun loaded? He was just clap, clap. Like I said, if I know it's loaded, it's good enough. And the other brothers start saying clap, clap. They jacking rounds off in the chamber. Remember, you cannot ride in the car with a live round in the chamber are riding in the car. Well, nobody thought to jack rounds in the chamber when we first got out of the rifles when we first got out of the car. That's what was happening. And boom, and so that shook the police officer. Not scared, but pissed off because he realized, whoa, it's 14, 15 of these goddamn people. These guys all got fucking guns. He hadn't even looked close. He gets his arrestee, sheds his passenger door and puts the arrestee and put him in and drives off. I turn around and I says, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bobby Seale. I'm chairman of the Black Panther Party. This is Huey P. Newton here. He's the Minister of Defense of the Black Panther Party. Party members here now will pass out, so all the guys who's carrying handguns had to carry stacks of the 10-point platform and program. So we passed the 10-point platform and program out. We have a political education class at the Black Panther Party office, 5624 Grove Street, at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and please come, etc. Some little kids come running around. One kid went and got 9 or 10 other kids and brought him back. See, I told you, ooh, we got the new black police. So, what I'm saying here, brothers, we were a ragtag organization, and we followed the law. And periodically, we would be out and wait till the cops say something to us and recite the law to them. And the equalizer was our gun at the time. Now, I don't want you to go out there with guns. The laws have changed. It do not work. These guys have got crazy-ass laws out here, and they could say, even when they made a law against us 6 months later, California State Legislature, where I led an armed delegation to protest that specific law, the Mulford Act, they call it in California in the legislature. The law read like this: no one can carry a loaded weapon inside city limits. See what they were doing? They could not and did not want to infringe upon hunters' rights outside the city limits. You see what I'm getting at? Inside city limits. And you can't carry a loaded gun inside city limits within 150 feet of public property. And then it went on to say, public property includes all roadways, byways, which means if you're on the public sidewalk, you'd have to be 150 feet from it before you could load your weapon. Now, we ain't going out there with no unloaded weapons. Our weapons were loaded from Jump Street. They stayed loaded, and I'm telling you, we wasn't going. So that stopped the patrols, because we weren't going to do that. And of course, we got a lot of media, a lot of press, television, all kind of stuff, and we're telling people you can patrol and observe police from your front doors in our communities. And that's very important to do that, to take note of that stuff, et cetera, and so on. And, you know, we explained. So that gave us our notoriety. When I led that armed delegation to the California State Legislature, what were we, 7 months old? Our little ragtag organization, what did we have, 30, 40 people? We had international notoriety. We were on the front pages of newspapers all over the world, in Africa, England. Of course, I led an armed delegation to the California State Legislature just to read a statement. And after we left the state capitol, we weren't arrested at the Capitol. We were arrested in a service station lot, it's a 6-foot service station lot. Police surrounded, et cetera, and arrested us. Policy in the party, we take the arrest if it's a proper arrest. And that was where we went. We always took the arrest. It would be later in 1969 that the police knew this, the FBI knew this, when they was raiding all our offices throughout the United States of America. All of our offices throughout the United States of America, they were doing this. They knew we taking arrests, but they came in shooting, murdering, busting in the back door and the front door in Fred Hampton, December the 4th, 1969, shooting up and killing the people and wounding them all, and specifically going to the bedroom where Fred Hampton was, and outside of that bedroom, against this wall and against this wall, we put the straws in pictures to show where all the bullet holes went. They took machine guns and at bed level shot these bullets on this wall, and this is the room where Fred Hampton was, and he was killed. And then they drug his body out toward the door to try to make it look like he'd gotten up. But Gloves Diamond, the black cop with this special force, took his pistol, said, pow, 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 shot Fred Hampton in the head, witnessed by other party members there who had already been handcuffed and wounded in other rooms and stuff, etc. And Gloves Diamond, the black cop, said, the nigga is good and dead now. Murdered Fred Hampton, December the 4th, 1969. Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, Black Panther Party, wounded up 5 or 6 other party members. It would be years later, but they won the suit against state's attorney and the FBI, and they had to pay the millions of dollars to the family for killing and murdering Fred Hampton. They didn't go to jail and they didn't go to prison, the FBI and others. This is the FBI complicit in the murder. So you can understand my film that I'm doing. The film we're doing is called Seize the Time, the Eighth Defendant. I was the eighth defendant, as you know, in the Great Chicago 7 conspiracy trial, where I argued with the judge for 7 weeks on trial about him violating my Sixth Amendment constitutional right. My Sixth Amendment constitutional right said I had a right to legal counsel of my choice, not the judge's choice. I wanted to defend myself because my lawyer wound up in the hospital in a surgical operation at the beginning of the trial. In San Francisco, they had me in Chicago. So I'm the eighth defendant here. And that particular trial, the relevancy of the Black Panther Party got more publicity worldwide than when I led the armed delegation in May 2nd, 1967. It was 1969 before I was chained, shackled, and gagged to a chair in Judge Julius Hoffman's courtroom. And for 3 days, I'm chained, shackled, and gagged to a chair. The first day they had me in a metal chair, metal handcuffs, put a bunch of tape, straps of tape all around my face and my ground. And the 2 big guards would pick up the chair and bring it in from the lockup and sit me down. And the judge says, now, Mr. Seal, will you shake your head up and down saying, yes, I will not disrupt this courtroom anymore. Now, look at this guy. Metal handcuffs against a metal folding chair. My legs has got metal leg cuffs and metal handcuffs. Boom. And I said, I want my constitutional rights to defend myself. I want my constitutional rights to defend myself. The jury is over there. One woman is getting ready to cry. But boy, I remembered something. A person that's pulling and rattling and pulling their chains is acting in the manner of a free person. I took those chains and those rattling and I says, clang, 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 clang. I want my constitutional rights. Clang, clang, clang. Wasn't going to be no court that day. Send the jury out. So I'm protesting in the goddamn gag. Next day, they ain't got no metal chairs. They got an armed wood chair. They got hospital straps. They don't have no handcuffs no more. And boom, that didn't work. And then the last day, they mummified my face. They gagged up everything in my head, and the only thing you could see was my eyes and my nose like this. You know them ace bandages that you wrap around and around and around and around, and the more you wrap, and they wrap it all around the neck, even all here, it causes you to pressure your arteries that run up and down here. It slows down the blood circulation. That's what happened. It's a gag. And I'm trying to I turn my hand over under that strap, and I'm trying to move to get here. If I can get my fingers here, I can pull the gag up, but I can't get there because Big Goliath, he would turn my hand back over and hit me in the face and knock me back up. And then Jerry Rubin got up. He hit him. He shouldn't have hit him in the mouth. And Abby Hoffman got up, and another sister Lerner, she was like a legal aid assistant person. People out of the chairs, and this prosecution is arguing, the counselor is arguing, one wine glass, the other mug is arguing. This is medieval torture. You shouldn't be doing this. And I turned my hand back over. Then they're trying to pick up the chair, and everybody's saying, well, if the marshal thinks he needs assistance, the judge is arguing, boom, boom, boom. And this is your fault, Mr. Counselor. My fault. I'm ashamed to be a lawyer in a American courtroom at this time, blah, blah, blah. It was something else. It was like a circus. People all up out their chairs, etc. And marshals come over and slamming other defendants down their chair. Get down in your chair. It was something else. And they tried to pick it up again, and 3 marshals clumsily fooling around. In the back side of the wall there, and I'm here, and they're trying to pick it up. It's 2 rows of metal chairs and artist reporters. They didn't have no cameras in the courtroom. Artist reporters. And they tried to pick this chair up, 3 in the back and Goliath in the front. And they picked it way up like so. And then suddenly I turned my hand over like this again, and Goliath let go of one of the legs to turn my thing down. And that meant the chair leaned. That means these other guys in the back lose balance, and then somebody is tripping and falling, and they headed towards the artist reporters in the folding chair, and the chair is going, and boom, it crashes. The artist reporters are jumping out of the way. It crashes, knocks chairs back. It's a big, heavy wooden chair. And boom, and I'm on my back, and I turn over, and I struggle like this here. Everybody's arguing, etc., boom, 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 and somebody has hit me in my testicles, and I got the thing, I said, "You hit me in my balls, motherfucker!" And it was so confusing that the court recorder thought Jerry Rubin said it. And she got it in the court. "Jerry Rubin, you hit me in my balls." This is going to be a drama. This is not a documentary, brothers and sisters. I'm trying to do a piece of mass education about this history, the relevancy of it. I mean, we've got good research. I mean, we got in the voice of Richard M. Nixon talking to J. Edgar Hoover in his voice. Watergate tapes that's been made public now. Nixon is saying, Hoover, have you got the information from John Mitchell there? We got to get rid of these Panthers, you know? This is right after this dude is elected to political office. In his voice, we're going to get rid of these Panthers. I mean, we got the documents. We got the documents. In one particular document, because it was a Senate investigation hearing, you know, against the FBI, finally, for attacking all our officers. Most people don't know why those shootouts stopped in the country. Because we got all these people on our side, because I networked these people before those shootouts happened. The day that J. Edgar Hoover, December 1968, right after Nixon is elected, jumps on television and J. Edgar Hoover says the Black Panther Party is a threat to the internal security of America, I had 5,000 members organized in the Black Panther Party in 49 chapters and branches across the United States of America. I gave them their PE. I gave them their political education. I taught them to find particulars in the methodology of effective community organizing. I taught them dialectics, the use and application of dialectics. Quantitative increase, quantitative decrease causes a qualitative leap or change. See, you didn't come in my PE class coming around, well, the white folks is devils. I don't want to hear that. That's totally unscientific. Leave. If you want to go to the Nation of Islam and talk that, go there. Sit down. You're going to learn grassroots community organizing, to find particulars in the methodology of doing this here so we can unite the people in their votes. Black, white, blue, red, green, yellow, polka dot, and everybody who supports the Constitution, democratic, civil, human rights of the people. So go over there with those metaphorical things. It's not scientific. I am talking about, so you're going to learn dialectics in my class. You're going to learn the application of it. So when I tell you to understand quantitative increase, quantitative decrease causes a qualitative leap or change, hey, me, I have a blackboard, what have you, etc. Boom, I write it on the board. Quantitative increase, I'll put it in italics. Quantitative decrease, boom. And it becomes known in my PE class as the increase-decrease factor. What is the increase-decrease factor? You see? I says, brothers and sisters, this is a basic dialectical principle. And it's all about addition and subtraction. I says, in fact, you know, I love math, you know, the application of the quadratic formula and all this stuff. I knew all this stuff, but my point is, I'm going to break this down so they can understand it. You know what I mean? I says, the basic function of all mathematics is addition and subtraction. What? What about multiplication? Ain't nothing but a fast way of adding. What about division? Take the whole and divide it as a form of subtraction. The basic function of all mathematics is addition and subtraction. I says, now you are political organizers in the community. The increased amount of times that you sell Black Panther Party newspapers in your designated precincts and areas, you are decreasing the apathy and increasing the consciousness. Come on now, let's deal with the addition and subtraction. What you want to decrease and what do you want to add? That's what it's about. The increased amount of times we have programs in the community that serve the people, you are decreasing the disunity and organizing the unity around a positive, relevant program.
what they're trying to do, J. Edgar Hoover with the counterintelligence program and all of them, and the politicians, saying the negative crap about what we were about. And that's when we said all power to all the people. The avaricious corporate money rich who controls and owns, but then buys out the politicians to make laws only for them, and that power structure to perpetuate the exploitation and the oppression of us. This is what we got to get rid of. And it's right today. It ain't over with. It's vicious. I mean, the very fact that them bastards 20 years ago with McCain and the rest of them in the Senate and others voted to have multiple mortgage rates, flexible mortgage rates. That's where this shit started. And what it does, it puts up a false value of properties. In other words, you sign that shit, boom, 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 so you had 10, 20 goddamn million people over that period of time that had evolved. You know, and boom, next thing you know, you miss a payment, your payment's double. Oh my God, oh shit. And after a certain period of making payments, regardless, your payments are gonna double. And that shit ballooned out on them, crashed the goddamn system, people lost homes, houses, et cetera, all because some jive-ass chicken shit, excuse my expression, asshole politicians made some goddamn chicken shit law to perpetuate some exploitation of the people in the community, all because of that. So that's just one example of 101 examples you can find, right on down to police brutality and what's going on. We need community control of police. And I'm saying, we put it on the ballot. We put it on the ballot in Berkeley, California. Duly elected 3 commissioners was the concept. And in the process of that measure being on the ballot, we also voted for community police review boards. And I'm talking about review boards that had teeth, that had a right to investigate everything, complete with legal assistance. That's where we were coming from with the community control of police that we put on the ballot back in those days. We lost in Berkeley by 1 percentage point. So that was a piece of people's legislation. You see what I mean? Trying to make some legislation that make human sense, that empowered the people outside of the police department, but yet they can have a right to investigate any and all complaints of police brutality and do it outside of the police department. We don't want police investigating police. We want the people to investigate the goddamn police. So, what can I say? I want all of you to support my film. If you buy books and posters from me, you're supporting my film. It's helping us get the pre-development stuff out of the way. We're going for an independent film. We're not going for an option with a company, major company. When we walk in, we have the storyboard, we have the breakdown, we have the screenplay, we have all these stuff. We have some actors, marketable actors already there. So these are the things we're doing, and we've been piecemealing this for the last year or so. We have been on Indigo, et cetera. People can go to Indigo and also find out about this campaign. You can come, and I give perks for any contribution, whether it's posters, books, et cetera. And the contributions start at about, what, $20, $25 or something, and $20 and $30, but you always get a perk. You get a perk of some kind. You get a book, an autographed book, or whatever, et cetera, $30, $60, whatever, et cetera. And all the way up to some people who maybe have the money, et cetera. I mean, the top thing, contribution you can make to my film really is the $10,000. And those who have the money in front, we appreciate it. You know what I mean? And we got big perks. And if you donate, if you donate or contribute $10,000 to us dealing with our initial development stuff, we list you as associate producer of it. So if we had 10 of those people donating $10,000, we'd have all our shit completed, but we're gonna have 10 associate producers in the film. And remember, this is a drama. This is not a doc. This is not a doc. We're operating and trying to put together a major feature film, hopefully that's gonna open up 5,000 goddamn screens the first goddamn week of the movie. That's the kind of shit we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. So I want you to support that. What can I say? We're all Homo sapien human beings. The Genome Project has told us in science that whatever our so-called racial or ethnic difference, biologically, our whole biological makeup, biomolecular, molecular structure, etc., basically, the Genome Project proves that all of us, because how tall or short you are, whatever your complexion, skin, the color of eyes, the hair, and texture, etc., and all this kind of stuff, fat, skinny, strong, fine, good-looking, sweet, whoever, etc., boom, you're less than 0.5% different on the biological molecular side. So all this bull crap that's been evolved through the years with racial superiority and all this kind of crap, that's out the window. We're teaching humanity that you are whole human beings and you're part and parcel of this humanity that must survive on this earth. And we have to evolve some new economic practices. And I'm not talking about, I don't like state-controlled socialism. I don't like avaricious corporate monopoly capitalist assholes either, you know what I mean? What I like is people's empowerment, and we're going to evolve some practical economic practices. That's what humanity has to do, that make human sense, that liberates people economically, politically, socially, ecologically, etc. Power to the people. Thank you very much.